Hi, Lester. Well, it's quite an amazing scene behind me. That's exactly right. They have to claim full responsibility for that particular area. They've been calling this devastating fire the beast. Even here, the Arab-Israeli conflict is never far from view. Navy Special Forces and SEALs took this terminal. The USS Abraham Lincoln is known as the largest warship in the world. But despite all that, Powell says he really is here to open a dialogue with Syria. I'm Hanson Hosein in Tel Aviv. I'll have more on that coming up next.
5 bombings in 2 days, Hanson. I would imagine people there are very upset.
They are very upset, Sam. In fact, if you look right here, this is the work of a 19-year-old Palestinian woman. At 5:15 this afternoon, this woman came in dressed very well, witnesses say, and tried to enter this mall.
This is the church, the oldest church in the world.
Hannah Nasser says he's proud to be mayor of Bethlehem. Nasser is a Palestinian Christian and believes Christ was born here. He hopes peace will return to his city with the possible Israeli pullback this week. Bethlehem has taken several steps backward in the last few years. The Church of Nativity was besieged by the Israeli army for weeks in April 2001 as Palestinian gunmen took refuge inside.
All these people, all of them just want to get to Bethlehem. They are prevented.
Every Sunday, Maya Rosenfeld leaves her home in Israel to come to this checkpoint in the West Bank to argue. Today, Rosenfeld is trying to convince this Israeli soldier to allow Bukaram Zebet and her husband to travel to a Palestinian hospital.
I can't just sit and witness the destruction of another people by my government and by my armies.
Every morning, soldiers stop these buses full of Palestinians trying to get to work or school. They search them and check their IDs. This happens every day here, and it's not even a checkpoint between the West Bank and Israel. All these people are trying to do is to get from one Palestinian town to the next. This is Hezbollah's stronghold, southern Lebanon. America would like to kick Hezbollah out of here. Hezbollah is everywhere in this part of Lebanon, from the portraits that celebrate its leader Hassan Nasrallah and its first Iranian supporter, the late Ayatollah Khomeini, to this, a hospital in the town of Nabatea. This is one reason why Hezbollah is so popular. It's a political party and a social welfare group that provides better health care than the Lebanese government can. Secretary of State Colin Powell's visit here is a crucial one, and the bottom line to his message today: we're here to do business with Syria. Powell denied that the administration made any threats against Damascus a few weeks ago, when the concern here was that America was going to take some kind of military action against Syria. Hezbollah told me as long as there are 4 million Palestinians living around the world unable to return to their homes, they'll never accept any roadmap to peace. Here's the interview we did. What will Hezbollah's response be to this roadmap?
I rule out that the roadmap is an acceptable solution for the Palestinian people.
Now that it looks like the tension between Damascus and Washington has been diffused, Syria is turning its attention to other matters. As a major power broker here in the Middle East, its principal concern has always been the Palestinians, and most notably, Israel. Heder Kabariti says he prays for peace. Kabariti is Jewish, and he's visiting one of Damascus's 20 synagogues. Believe it or not, there's still a handful of Jews who continue to live here in Syria, after nearly 10,000 others moved to Israel and beyond years ago.
Hanson Hosein is an NBC News correspondent. He comes to us via video phone aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. Hanson.
This week's bad weather here in the Persian Gulf showed that even the best of military technology can still be bested by Mother Nature. Even during the worst of the weather, the Navy was able to launch up to 190 air sorties, but many of those planes came back later with their bombs undelivered. That's because ground troops were unable to move because of poor visibility. Pilots say it's been tough to stay sharp for so long. The Lincoln has already been deployed for 9 months. Her crew was supposed to return home in January, but the Pentagon extended her mission as the war of words with Iraq heated up.
It's tough. This cruise especially has been a long cruise, so it's challenging to stay current and stay on edge for combat.
I think we're doing just fine. I mean, of course, everybody's exhausted, everybody's tired.
MSNBC's Hanson Hosein is in Kelowna, Canada, with the very latest. We see you next to a fire truck. And Hanson, not only are you reporting on this story, but you and your wife directly affected by it. Tell us all about that.
That's right, Sam. Can you believe it or not, after covering wars for the last 6 months around the Middle East, came home for a bit of peace and quiet, and home is here in Kelowna, British Columbia. And we thought that things would be calm, but you know, there's a cost that you pay for living in paradise. And the cost is that you're so close to nature that the possibility of forest fires or earthquakes can always sort of rock your world, and that's the situation right now. Well, Natalie, you know what? Nobody ever expected this town to become a disaster zone. Many people, including myself, moved here for the peace and quiet as well as for the great outdoors. But now we've got the national newspaper putting this on the front cover saying, Kelowna counts the cost. Israel's Bedouin Arabs wake with the sun. And so do the Julians, who sleep outside where it's cooler at night in Israel's Negev desert. Yunus Abu Hamad asked Sinai and Hannah Julian to leave New York for Israel. The Bedouin tour guide met them last year and told them as Jews they belonged here.
This is a lifelong dream of ours to come and live in Israel.
So the family of 6 arrived last week as part of a campaign to encourage American Jews to move here. Israelis fear they'll soon be outnumbered by the faster-growing Arab population. Immigration to Israel has plummeted after 3 years of violence. Yet the Julians are living and working with their Arab friends until their house in a nearby town is ready.
I've probably got less chance of being attacked here in this village as a Jew than I have on the streets of Jerusalem or Tel Aviv today.
Hannah even escorts Eunice's wife to the hospital. She says being an American social worker might get her better care.
We are a special example for other people to come and to try and to sit and to speak.
The Bedouin may be Arabs, but they've also accepted Israel. Some of them even serve in the Israeli army, which is why it was so easy for them to make friends with the Julians.
This is family. And it's time for the family to come together and stop having this family fight.
The Julians say they're still Americans and support the roadmap to peace, especially now with Israel as their home and Arabs as their neighbors. Hanson Hosein, NBC News, Dragat, Israel.